Have you ever wanted to communicate to others without speaking, or be able to tell what they are saying or how they're feeling just by looking at them? It may be important to read someone's body language and even essential in some reasons. According to a survey of income and program participation, only about 1 in 20 Americans are deaf and speaking sign language and reading each other's body language. But for other reasons, reading a person's body language may be beneficial in getting an understanding on how they feel or their intentions. So, what is nonverbal communication and reading body language? It is a way of transmitting information through body movements, facial expressions, or gestures. Nonverbal communication is the universal language that everyone can communicate to each other with across different cultures and different languages. Today I'm going to be informing you about how to read different body gestures and expressions and why they may be helpful. But first, let me give you an incident where reading body language was useful to solving an important case. In Joe Navarro's What Everybody is Saying, it's a book. He's actually a FBI agent, and he knows a lot about body language. He recounts of a story of a suspect in a rape case. The suspect was brought in, and his words sounded plausible, and his story was convincing. And he claimed he hadn't seen the victim, and while out in the field, he had gone down a row of cotton, turned left, and then walked straight to his house. As Navarro kept his eyes on the suspect, who was telling about the story of turning left and going home, he gestured to his right where the rape scene was. The discrepancy between his verbal saying, "I went left," and his gesturing to the right made him suspicious, and he eventually waited and confronted the man again, who would confess to the crime later. Some forms of nonverbal communication are obvious and common, while others are unique and subtle. For example, we'll learn that when we're babies that a smile represents happiness, and a thumbs up can represent something good or acceptable, while a thumbs down can represent something that's bad or unacceptable. Some other gestures that you might not pick up on are something like a furrowed eyebrow, and that might mean that you're stressed or uncomfortable, or constantly touching your face, and that represents nervousness or discomfort. A behavior like this is called a pacifier. And a pacifier gesture includes playing with your hair, constantly touching your face or your neck, adjusting a tie, placing your palms on your legs, like if you're sitting down and you have sweaty palms and you do something like this, or licking your lips a lot. Now, these kind of behaviors represent insecurities or discomfort or fear or concerns. But it's important to put it into perspective of the situation. So it's only when in response to a negative stimulus, like if someone were to ask you a difficult question or if you were in a very embarrassing situation. First, we're going to examine the face. A tightening or clenching of the jaw in your face may represent tension as a form of stress. For an example, if someone's about to get into a fight, you might notice by looking at their jaw that their jaw clenches. Squinting of the eyes, if you squint at someone like that, it might mean that there is something we do not like or we're angry. So if there's someone that you despise or like maybe an old, friend that you guys didn't get along and they walk into the room, you might squint your eyes at them. Side-eyeing someone, if you side-eye them, that may occur when we question the validity of what they're saying. So I might side-eye you and be like, "Are you sure you put enough flour in that cake?" Folding your lips in, like that's a sign of stress or anxiety, while having full, plump lips can be a sign of comfort. With your nose, sneering at someone, it can be very disrespectful. And it's similar to eye rolling. It's basically saying, "I don't care about what you have to say." On to the hands and the fingers. It's important to show your hands if you want to establish confidence and authority, since hiding them can create a very negative impression. So it's important to, when you're talking with your hands and keeping them out instead of hiding them in your pockets or behind you. Another thing is pointing with a finger It can be very offensive and hostile to others. So if you point at someone, or if you point at something, I had a job where we used to have to gesture at everything because in some cultures it was very disrespectful to point. So if someone said, "Where is the bathroom?" I would be like, "Right over here," instead of like over there. A hand steeple. This one's kind of unique, but you know what it is. A hand steeple is a display of high confidence and authority. It's something that you see often, but you don't know what it is. Putting your hands up like this is a hand steeple. Clasping your hands together in a folded position, that can be seen as representing stress. Showing your thumbs can be a high confidence display, keeping them out like that, while hiding them can be a show of low confidence or insecurities. Next, on to the torso and the hips. Leaning in towards someone can represent comfort and agreement, while leaning away could represent comfort or disagreement. Another thing is puffing out your chest. That's an establish of dominance. You want to puff out your chest. Onto the legs. Putting your toes towards the ceiling. Now you can't see it, but if you're talking to someone and you have your toe up, that could mean that it's a sign of happiness. You're just it's like a gravity-defying behavior. You're joyous, you're stress-free. It's a sign of happiness. Another thing is a territorial display. So spreading your legs out wide means you might take up a lot more room, and you could feel threatened, or you could be trying to establish dominance. One thing to pay attention to when you're observing a person's feet is where their toes are pointed, because it might point out their intentions or what they plan on doing. So in conclusion, when evaluating a person's body language, the legs, the torso, the hands, and the face may represent emotions, feelings, or intentions. But however, it's important to take the context of the situation you're in and apply it to reading the body language. Now that you are aware of certain gestures and movements and how to read them, you have an advantage and a new perspective in your everyday actions.